Sam, I just have no idea how you do it, because this is another movie that has blown me away completely. I mean, I love everything that you do. Skyfall was already a highlight, but 1917 is just... The emotional journey that you take as a viewer just really kills you, and I still have to digest what I've seen. I just wanted to know, for how long have you been pregnant with this idea?
A long time, a long time. You know, I'm not a writer. I'm a director, and I, you know, it took a lot for me to actually, you know, sit down alone and write, because I like to work with other people, and you know, if you leave me alone in a room, I get bored and I stare out of the window, and you know, so, but it's been bubbling up for a while, and I think ever since I was a child, when my grandfather told me stories about the Great War and about what happened to him, I had wanted to tell this story in some form. But weirdly, spending time on the Bond movies in the room with the writers, and having, you know, started both movies with a blank page and nothing, and watching and helping those movies get written, gave me the courage to write a movie myself. I thought, well, I know how movies are put together. I think I can do this. And also, I've got these new muscles that I built up from making a big movie with lots of explosions and stuff. And I also even had a taste at the beginning of SPECTRE. I did an 8-minute shot, one continuous shot in Mexico City that I really, I felt was the thing I liked most about the movie.
The beginning.
Yeah, the beginning. And I felt like, so all of those things gave me the courage, I think, to make this film, because it's quite audacious. You know, it really is so linear. It's 2 hours of real time. It's one shot. You never leave their side, really. You know, you can't edit it. You can't control rhythm after the event. You have to do it while you're shooting. So all of that meant that it took me a while, even though I was pregnant, you know, from quite a long time ago, it took me a while to give birth.
And it turned out to be a great child.
Well, it seems to be taking its first steps very well.
But great steps.
You have a brother in the 2nd Battalion.
Yes, sir.
They're walking into a trap. Your orders are to deliver a message calling off tomorrow morning's attack. If you fail, it will be a massacre.
We've got orders to cross here.
That is the German front line.
Hold back! If we're not clever about this, no one will get to your brother. I will.
Sam, movie making is all about creating an environment that is pretty controlled for the actors and for the camera people and for the extras. Doing it the way that you've done it this time, in what way did your experience as a theater director help you to create that environment to be more freeing but still be controlled?
That's very well put. Freeing but controlled. You know, James Brown used to say, keep it loose but keep it tight. And you kind of know what he means. You know, you want the rhythm section to be just so, but then he wants to be able to improvise over the top of that. And so you want to lay down the structure for these shots, but then you also want a certain amount of freedom. And in that regard, I learned a lot from theatre. I mean, I brought a huge amount of my theatre training, because it's not unusual for me to rehearse for 8 weeks and then say to a group of actors, okay, I'll see you in 2 hours, off you go, you know, and have the courage to let them own it. And it wasn't that different on this movie, you know, so that you would watch what you had prepared unfold, but then something else started to happen, you know, some accidents, some little look or a line or an improvisation or a physical accident. I mean, there's a moment when Schofield, played by George Mackay, is running down the line at the end of the movie. He's delivering a message, and it's the last few yards that he has to travel. And he gets hit very hard by another soldier who knocked off his feet. Well, that wasn't planned. You know, that was not deliberate. That was an accident. That was just someone adrenalized trying to get out of the trench, and it just hit him. And I remember in the moment that he did it thinking, that's amazing, get up, keep running, you know, and he did. And so however much you plan, you know, there is real life in this movie too. There is real accidents, there are real human beings and struggling, But because everyone's doing it in that one, you know, huge adrenalized take, people behave differently and with a kind of heroism, even when making the film. So it was moving to watch, and there were lots of things in there, as you know, that perhaps I hadn't planned, but were better than anything I'd imagined.
Was that important and pivotal in casting the actors? Did you look, especially for people who had the experience, theater-wise, or were in that way influenceable by what you had in mind?
You know, I always find the best actors are, you know, have done both, theatre and film. But I wasn't really looking specifically for theatre. I was looking for people who were very close to the roles as I'd written them, and for people who could live the part as much as play the part. You know, because it was a sort of less of a job, more of a lifestyle choice, you know, because they were rehearsing for 6 months, you know, full costume, walking around fields and constantly with the camera moving and experimenting and trying things out until we had the journey exactly as we wanted. So, you know, for me, what was important was like an emotional investment from them that was way beyond the norm. You know, they didn't turn up on the first day and action. You know, they were there for months. By the time the cameras actually rolled, both actors had done it many, many times. They were almost, and they were so used to living in their clothes and carrying their kit and their rifle, and that they had forgotten about it, and that's what I wanted. So, in a way, what I was thrilled about with Dean and George was how much they lost themselves in it and forgot that they were acting often.
Dean and George said something really interesting, that they basically put their character in context of saying it was all about muscle memory, that they memorized what the character was about. What about you as a director? I mean, they rehearsed, but in what way did you get your muscle memory going, that you were sort of ready and had a plan B for every mishap that happened during these one takes, as you've been putting it, with the soldier hitting George at the end of his journey?
You have a rhythm in your head. Even when you're making any movie, you're trying to feel, you know, you could argue that the director, his or her main job is to hold the whole movie in their head when everyone else is working on details. Here it was no different. I had to have an overall rhythm of the film in my head that I could feel confident in, because I wanted the movie to breathe in and breathe out. I wanted it to have moments of quiet and peace and strange tranquility, even in the midst of this desperate need to get to where he's going. I didn't want it to just be a headlong rush, you know, at one pace the whole time. I needed it to feel contemplative at times as well. And so I was shifting rhythms as much as anything else, shifting atmospheres, shifting locations, colors. You know, if you come to a war movie expecting, you know, mud and no man's land, well, you get that for 20 minutes and then not. You get other trenches and dugouts. You get quarries and orchards and blossom and farmhouses and canals and burning towns at night and rivers and woods and the natural world. And so I felt like if I could, the rhythm is not only in the dialogue, but the rhythm is in the locations and the way that they're used. The rhythm is in the way the camera shifts its relationship between them and between the actors and the landscape constantly. From the very beginning, I felt this movie should be told in real time. Every step of the journey, breathing every breath with these men, felt integral. And there is no better way to telling this story than with one continuous shot.
3, 2, 1, go, go!
so it was one thing that I was preparing, and by the time we'd rehearsed it, I felt I had a closer idea of the movie that I wanted to make than I've ever had before. You know, I felt I knew where we were heading. So even when there were accidents, you know, I felt we could adjust, and you know, I could determine whether it was something, because you know, normally you don't decide what shots are in the movie for months. But here I was having to do it on the day. Okay, that is the take we're matching to. That's take 6, that's my selected take. And I was saying right away, that's in the movie. So when it's released in 9 months' time, this is in, you know. And you know, normally that pressure is not on you, you know. But there's something kind of exhilarating. Once you know you have to make the decision, it clarifies your mind. You know, you just think faster.
I think it's amazing.
Oh,
so
thank you.
It's a beautiful movie.
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All the very best.
Thank you.
Enjoy Berlin.
Thank you.